The views and opinions expressed by the hosts of this program do not represent the groups that we are affiliated with. Listener discretion is advised. This show is uncensored.
This show is brought to you by the Serious Cybernetics Corporation. New genuine people personalities for your robots? What can go wrong?
I think you ought to know I'm feeling very depressed.
Hello everyone, this is Mike. I'm doing this unusual intro because this is a rather unusual episode, and I'd like to apologize to all of you out there and to Kay and Kerri. Our original plan for this episode was to pair it up with an interview with someone from the Republican Party in this county to talk about issues that they were having with members of their party. That never happened. This episode was recorded almost a year ago today, and it was not released till just now because we were unable to find someone willing to go on record from the Republican side and talk about the issues that they were having. We had plenty of people tell us off the record, but they would not go on record. So, seeing as how that side fell through, we felt it was appropriate at this point to just go ahead and release this without the opposing viewpoints idea that we originally had. So here is this recording of Kerri and Kay talking about the issues that they've had when they were running Heroic Media with particular members of the Democratic Party. Again, I apologize to you, Kerri and Kay, for this not getting out sooner. Thank you. All right, now we have some guests here, and it's Kerri Barber and Kay Dickinson, formerly of Heroic Media, who wanted to come in and tell their story of what happened to them and their company with members of one of the local parties attacking them. Kerri, Kay?
Hi, I'm Kay Dickinson. I was the CEO of Heroic Media Group, and also the primary designer, and I'm an LGBT activist and a lifelong Democrat.
Hi, I'm Kerri. Kerri Barber. I was also a partner with Kay. I managed the CFO functions and some of the social media pieces. I have been a lifelong liberal, engaged with the party for a number of years. Myself a candidate, as well as an activist, recruited other PCs, election judges, and avid volunteer for Democratic, liberal, progressive candidates.
Ooh, and I forgot to mention I'm an elected PC. I forgot to say that.
My name's Brett Bader, and I just felt left out.
Poor Brett.
I didn't even say my name either.
That's your fault.
Who are you
Because I'm an
again?
international man of mystery. But anyways, so you guys had started up a business. You were doing, what was the business's function mostly?
We did, so like Kerri mentioned, she was in charge of like the social media and some of the strategy and the writing. I was design and some of the tech parts, and then we both worked on websites together. So we were like a PR marketing design firm kind of thing. So that's what we did.
Okay, and in that function, you guys worked with several people who were running for office and things like that as
Right,
well.
we had, we volunteered on 3 separate campaigns. And we were completely volunteer. We only charged for materials for like printing costs, and we didn't do any upcharges. We just whatever like Vistaprint or whatever company we used, we just passed on that bill directly to the client. And we also did some websites and some photography and writing and managed social media. And then we had other paying clients on the side as well because we had to keep our lights on. But we did volunteer on 3 different campaigns that were for 3 different races, and all of them local.
Okay, and so how did the problem start?
Well, Kerri, that's going to be you. Take it away, Pumpkin.
Well, when I first noticed there was a problem, there was an individual who had posted something online, taking my words and comments grossly out of context. So just to back up a little bit, we do have a civil case pending in McHenry County Court, District 22. So I want to be mindful of making sure that we kind of stick to that. But this particular individual made that post, and it was somebody that I had volunteered for on their prior campaign and worked with very closely. So rather than taking it directly to Facebook, I contacted her directly and said, hey, this was taken out of context. I'm not sure why you did it, but, in the interest of fairness, please, 24 hours, remove it, or I have to respond in kind because you've put it out there in a public space. Well, she declined to do so. So at the time, I still didn't understand what was going on, but later on, by a text message, she actually said that, well, you're a community leader, your opinion matters. And I still didn't really understand what that meant, but, hindsight 2020, I now take it to mean that, well, because your opinion might be listened to by somebody, we're going to have to take you down a few pegs. So that was when the problems actually began, and that was around July, August of last year. And from there, it kind of snowballed into a number of different incidences that we felt were targeting us, outright harassment, slander, hence, we have a defamation suit, because it wasn't just about us and what we said, it was about how we were running our company and how we were behaving with these clients who happen to be candidates. There were some allegations that we were fleecing them, was the word that was used, and using...
don't forget we coerced them into working with us.
Right. We had coerced them, and inappropriate use of vote builder, just a number of different allegations that once they came back to us, we kind of had to scramble and make sure that we could prove that none of these were true. So,
right. We had an independent third party audit our books, and we actually lost thousands of dollars by not only not charging these clients and doing the work, but then you take into all of that time that we could have been paid through, paying clients.
Like billable hours.
Right, billable hours. We lost thousands working for them, and we didn't, we had affidavits signed by, I think, almost all of them, saying that all of them, that we did not coerce them. They came to us. We didn't charge them, the only thing we passed on was costs that weren't ours, like printing costs or the monthly charge for the website. Those costs we couldn't absorb, and we even donated some of that. I think you personally donated, some of the printing, as a in-kind donation to some of the campaigns. And you can look all that up. We were really diligent in our billing and reporting, how much we did in-kind donations to these campaigns. So it's totally out there on the internet. You can always search it up.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you guys were out there helping candidates, trying to get them the best possible media and public relations that you possibly could from you guys. And it wasn't so much that you went and found them, they went and found you, and you were doing your best to work for your clients.
Right.
And this was a problem because...
We're not entirely sure.
No.
And that's part of what we're hoping to piece together, the motive behind this. I mean, you can speculate based on some of the activity, but what we're trying to find out is the bigger picture. Was this truly about us and our business? While that was obviously damaged beyond repair, what was the bigger picture here? Because some of these things that just don't make logical sense. For example, this charge that I had improperly used vote builder. It was incredible to me that the executive board members were sitting right next to the person who is the administrator for the county for this tool and could have turned to her and asked the question. Well, did they? I did, because I wanted to have the report. So I asked her to pull the report, and she herself said, there's no evidence to substantiate this claim that you have done something improper. And she sent me the report and copied the then chairman Bissett on this. So to me, at that point, it looked like, okay, this has gone beyond whatever speculation they may have. There is actually a strategy and a purpose going on here.
Yeah, I mean, and whether or not they started this as a retaliation, or it was a whisper campaign, or if it was just...
If I may, what would they be retaliating against? I mean, you said retaliation and things like that. So where does that retaliation come in? A retaliation usually requires an initial action.
So what they initially said, and by they I mean Chairman Bissett and the executive board. Chairman Bissett was leading this. The vice chair at the time, Christina Zahorik, I had made a comment on Facebook that they said was private and confidential. They allege that comments made during executive board sessions are confidential. However, the role of the district chair is to take that information back to elected PCs. At the time, I was an appointed PC.
And your husband was the
district chair. So they said that he had shared information with me that was private and confidential. So the information at that time was, hey, maybe you couldn't try to remove a district chair when he's not sitting at the meeting to defend himself. So their retaliation response was to remove a district chair who was not at a meeting, and it just so happened that that ended up being my husband. So they were very clear, very open. It's public knowledge. They sent out information stating exactly that it is unfortunate, but because of comments that Kerri Barber made, we are taking this action against her husband, who had done nothing wrong.
So, you ultimately, because of your husband's actions, they retaliated and hit you guys, is basically the way this is.
What they stated was it was because of my action that they were punishing him.
And then they came after our business. And then it became a smear campaign from there. And, that we were dishonest. Up until at least a month or two ago, we were still seeing the same comments on Facebook, like repeating the same stuff. Now, in October of last year, I had a legal team review it. It wasn't written by a lawyer, it was written by me. I sent a cease and desist letter and offering up proof that we had affidavits, that we had a third-party audit, and politely asked them to stop. Just please stop. Please tell people this isn't true. You're hurting our business. As the CEO, I sent that. And I sent that to Zohoric, and I sent that to Bissett as certified mail. And I did have an attorney friend look it over. Now, the funny thing is, with a lot of the attorneys, they were really concerned about what was happening, but all the local attorneys wouldn't get involved because they're like, well, I might want to run for judge at one point. So they were like afraid of the same retaliation if they spoke out about the leadership than that we were getting.
Now, that kind of strikes me as telling, if you will.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hell, just run as a Republican.
Well, ultimately, I mean, it strikes as telling because they know something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They knew, yeah.
And I think there were a number of people, looking back, and Kay and I have done quite a bit of soul searching. One of the things that keeps coming up is it's a character issue. And we talk about all the time when you see the headlines out of Washington or it's really easy to point fingers at the other team and point out their issues. But this particular situation had us looking at human nature. And when it's happening to your team or your friends or something like that, it becomes extraordinarily difficult for people to step up, right? So doing the right thing is never easy, but these moments where we're challenged, our character is tested, they're subtle.
Right.
And in this situation where you had people who were aware of what was going on and making certain choices.
And one of those choices being never coming to us and asking if these allegations were true.
Right.
None of them.
Nobody ever walked up to you guys.
No, they automatically assumed. We've had people automatically assume that they're true and have lobbed insults at us, kind of thing. And look, it was just Kerri and I. And we had a couple of, subcontractors when we got really busy. But honestly, that was it. It was just Kerri and I. We didn't take out any loans. We didn't have any investors. It was just Kerri and I doing our thing. Because we each have over 20 years of experience in our field. So when we got together, we're like, hey, we complement. You do social media and strategy and writing. I do design and technology. We're good. We can work on this together. And, we figured it was a good fit and we did a lot of good. We really did. We did some really great work together. And now it's not only our business name, it's our personal reputations that have ruined. We would talk to people about doing contracts and they're like, oh, we've heard about you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We were in bidding process with business clients and it just dropped, which does happen from time to time. But when you come back and say, okay, what could we have done better? And the feedback is,
we've just heard stuff.
Right.
So I don't know if they intended to destroy our business or if they're
That was just secondary to.
But I mean, their words mattered, and they told a handful of people, and those people told a handful of people, and those people told a handful of people, and
they tell 2 friends. And
right, exactly.
So
so then all of a sudden we're trash, and for a PR and marketing firm, your reputation is everything. I mean, the design work we can say, here, look, we did good design work. Because we have proof of it. But for, social media and for PR and for writing and all that other stuff, your reputation is everything.
Well, yeah, if you're going to be doing PR and you can't even manage your own PR, then
right.
And
who's going to hire you?
It's a heavily competitive market, but I think one of the things that we had done, because most people know that I am a diehard progressive, which is not a socialist, but one of the tenets of that is...
That's not how I understand it.
True story. But one of the tenets of that is transparency. So if people want to pull through our data and our reports, we posted it on our webpage, which is still up. It's heroic.rocks.
ROCKS.
I will have that link up in the video as well.
Right. So what we did, and you can see through the dates and times and the actions that we took, that we tried on many occasions to reach out and get the behavior to stop. Because on the backdrop of this, we were managing a congressional campaign, which is no small feat. That's coordinating volunteers and everything else, as well as managing contracts for business clients and other activity. So during this, we were adamant that we did not want it to affect our candidate clients because they had nothing to do with it. At the same time, you have these people and their agents directly harassing our candidate clients. One person told a candidate client that he was tainted because he was working with us, and therefore certain benefits and tools that the party had at their disposal would not be made available to him. Another one...
so hold on, they cut potential candidates off from party tools simply because they were working with you.
Yes.
That is our understanding.
That's
these are
our
people
understanding.
that were running. We weren't even past the primaries yet.
Nope.
And they basically because they were working with you, they were cut off at the knees.
That's correct. And
Yes.
so what we ended up doing was 2 of these local clients, we parted ways.
We respectively stepped down.
Yeah.
Because we realized that they were not going to get the help from the party unless we stepped down. So we very politely withdrew and from their campaigns and said, we're sorry, but we just don't want this to interfere, and we've asked them to stop, and they're not. And they were still telling them things about us. Like the clients were, our candidate clients were still hearing from them, oh, you're still working them? And they were demanding that we get fired. Like our congressional candidate, they went up to him and demanded that they fire us.
Well, not just demanded that we be fired. You can't really fire a volunteer,
right?
But
you sure can.
We on a number of occasions, this congressional client was walking into a congressional candidate event and had either one of the people that we've named or their agent accost them in the doorway, in the hallway, and scream at them. And it was just incredible that this level of activity would happen. So it was just made it difficult for us because we're still buying into the whole unity thing. Yay, Democratic Party. And primaries are good. It's a good thing to have this competition of character and policy ideas. That wasn't what was happening on the other side, as evidenced by some of their action and activity.
So I'm you know me. I know you guys really well. I'm familiar with what has went on. I'm kind of playing dumb so I can ask questions so that everybody else, can learn what's going on. And you guys know me. You know I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. Why? This is just one question that bothers me: is why do you think that they were going to play nice in these primaries when they didn't do it on a national level?
We didn't know. I mean, those headlines didn't come out until after the primary, when you saw, Nancy Pelosi and the DCCC getting caught time after time in all of these races. And in fact, as a campaign manager for a congressional race, we talk to other campaign managers. So it wasn't just our race. This was happening in multiple races
and
across the state.
multiple counties.
Yeah.
Where if you weren't the chosen one by the DCCC, then you were ignored.
Exactly. Not just ignored, but there was one race where, well, I'm still waiting for the detail to come out, but where it was suspected that the DCCC was backing one candidate, got nervous, decided to lambaste that candidate and pull up another one. So there were a number of campaign managers, and we all talk. Mm-hmm. We all compare notes, and we understood what was going on, but that was very late in the races. At that time, we had sent the cease and desist, and then in February, it just got so bad that we had our attorney, the one who had been working with us, draft a formal demand letter. So that is also on our website, where we outlined, here are the things we know you have done, and you need to stop it. And it was a ridiculously low financial number that we asked for, because the emphasis on this was stop what you're doing. And that really didn't go answered either. So
I think we got one answer, which is they denied all allegations and we're not formally responding to this.
Well, one of their attorneys said we'll review it.
Yeah, and the other one said
no,
we're not even going to
respond.
They responded with a non-response, if that makes any sense.
The legalese.
Yeah, the legalese.
They did a legal version of la 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 la. I can't hear you.
Yes,
la, la, la,
that's
la.
exactly right. So as we went into the March 20 primary, behavior still happening, and after the March 20, then that's where the headlines started to come out nationwide for those states that had already had their primaries. So it was kind of an aha moment. Wait a second, is this part of what was going on, or was this strictly personal? Was somebody upset about something I said and I hurt somebody's feelings?
Well, that's why in the discovery of the lawsuit, all of this will come out, both sides. And that's honestly what we want to have happen, is we want both sides of the story to come out. In the discovery phase, that's what will happen in this lawsuit, is everything will come out in the open. There will be 100% transparency, and people can then form their own opinions from there. And whether we get the judgment or not, if all the information comes out and people can see for themselves, that's like our second best thing if we don't win the lawsuit, in my opinion.
Right. So I gotta just interject for a moment.
Yes.
Stop hitting the table.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm bumping shit.
Yep.
Sorry.
Because that thumps right in our listeners' ears, and that's a bad thing.
That's another reason why we're wearing
these. Can you hear?
I can hear everything.
Oh, good. I'm gonna bang on the table really hard now and break your eardrums.
I hear everything.
I hear.
I see dead people. Anyway.
Yeah.
Moving on. That we sidetracked. Sorry.
We do that all the time. We just go off the rails.
Yeah. And then one time we talked for 15 minutes, and then we were like, oh, yeah, right, back to what we were talking about. And then we only talked about it for a minute, and then we went right back down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, not a problem.
So when it all comes down to it, what we have here is a situation where a female-owned business...
Oh, and don't forget Kerri's disabled, too.
I was getting there.
Oh, okay.
A female-owned business where one of you has been an advocate for LGBT, and one of you is a disabled person, and they were attacked by by members of the Democrat Party. Right. I correct myself there before I finished it, because it wasn't the party itself.
I was about to say.
It's members.
Right.
It's members.
I'm a member.
Not all members, but members.
I'm a member.
So let's take a step back, because I know that the obvious argument is, well, that's how politics goes, quit whining. But here's what we discovered. Right? So some of this activity, it's just bad behavior. It's a character issue. Some of it is actually criminal. And we allege that some actual criminal misdemeanor and a couple felonies occurred in here. Right. So when we stepped back and took a look at, where do we...
We need that Law and Order gavel.
The dong dong.
Dong.
I'll just bump the table.
That's actually copyrighted, so be careful.
I'll hit the table a couple more times. Will that work?
But the
we
bigger
can go dong dong. That's fine.
Dong dong.
Dong dong.
The bigger picture here is there is no agency or authority, at least none that will own up to it. I spoke to Michael Casper, who is the attorney for Mike Madigan, the Democratic Party, who's supposed to help the SEC group, all of this. There is no agency to hold political party agents accountable. So, for example, if a chair, a vice chair, an executive board member is behaving badly, there is no one to hold them accountable. So that
Wouldn't that kind of fall on the group that member is a chair, or that person is a chair of?
what do you do if it's the chair, the vice chair, and the executive board?
Are those the only 3 members of the group? Couldn't the rest of the group step up and vote of no confidence or something like that?
In our party constitution, it's a 2/3 vote.
Yeah.
So it could happen. However, it hasn't. This is the same group of people who never approached us to find out if it was true or valid or anything.
And don't forget that they actually put all this in writing when Chairman Bissett dismissed 20 appointed PCs in order to stack the vote to have Doug Barber removed as District 1 chair. It was actually in the letter. Sorry, I'm bumping the table again. It was actually in the letter that this was because, they needed to remove Doug Barber. So they removed Doug and then reappointed some of the PCs. And not all the PCs got that letter either. The appointed PCs, they were just removed.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
I remember when that happened, and I remember giving some assistance and trying to figure out what had happened.
Right.
Right. Well, during the next party meeting, that question was brought up, and Mike Bissett ran. He literally ran.
Right. Someone stood up and tried to confront him at the end of that meeting. I was there, and he's like, "Hey, what about the 20?" And Mr. Bissett grabbed his crap and skedaddled like his butt was on fire.
Yep, I was there. I don't think I've ever seen him run so fast.
I didn't know he could run, and he flew. I mean, let's face it, he had some wings when he flew out of there.
So this just goes to the bigger question, right? If the person sitting next to you, even though they're on your team and something doesn't look right, isn't it part of your obligation as a leader to say, wait a second, maybe something's going on, which maybe someone did and it never got back to us? I don't know. That's one of the things we'll find out, unless this was part of a bigger strategy.
Right.
So the reason we decided to bring the lawsuit, it wasn't a vendetta. It's not us trying to recoup our losses, because that's never going to happen. When we looked at there is no accountability in the state of Illinois, that might be the reason why we have such a bad reputation for dirty politics in this state. So we decided that, okay, there are too many stories like ours. And while it cost us everything, we have an opportunity right now to do one last thing. And this one last thing was to bring a case with all of our evidence, make this public, and see if we can't prompt some change. Because what we discovered was, first, a case like ours, in over 50 years, there's never been a case like ours brought before the court. So this has the potential to be precedent setting, not just for one party, but for all parties.
Right, and you guys are on the beginning of our press tour, so you guys got early access.
Well, hey, you never know. In 20 years, the Supreme Court might be like, in the precedence of the Barber and the Dickinson case.
And,
right, you never know.
As Exhibit Q, the Don't Panic McHenry County podcast.
It could happen.
You never know. Woo!
So this was really our purpose, because we know what happened and we know what action we took. Obviously, we can't control the actions of other people, but
if we can prevent it from happening to someone else,
right?
And it's not even about us; it's about everybody who comes after us, who tries to do something, who doesn't toe party line, and then gets shit on for it, because that's basically what we did. We got shit on. And, we didn't toe the party line. We weren't, part of the inner circle. And we just tried to help people the best we could with the talents that we have. And, for everybody who comes after us, that's why we're doing this. So that no one else, loses everything. And then on top of it, this lawsuit's costing us thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah, quite a bit. And going back to, the challenge of doing the right thing when that test comes for you. I recognize that some people just don't have it. They can't step up, or they don't want to get involved, or I don't have enough information. That's fine. We do. So this is again one more thing that we can do. whether the decision comes out in our favor or not, at least we can bring all of this out and start to have this conversation. Because I'll tell you, when I was a candidate, and I was running for local office here in McHenry County, still naive, I had a lot of people on the other side of the aisle, Republicans and precinct committee people for the Republican Party, quietly step up and say, hey, I support you. And I want to pass literature. I want to help you. How can I do this? And I would have to meet with them at night, not in a public place, and they would
dark
tell
alley somewhere in the
right,
back
exactly,
room.
and they would tell me these horrific stories about here in McHenry County. If you did not toe the line, if you didn't walk and canvass as a PC, you were threatened. If you had a business, your business would be blackballed through different organizations or whatever. And I remember being so horrified, and again naive, thinking that would never happen in my party.
Democrats would never do that.
Right. Well, now I stand corrected. So
We both do.
So this goes just not for us and what happened to us, but for all political parties.
Right.
Well, and I mean, if they can do it here, they can do it anywhere.
Damn
Right.
right they can.
So, I mean, it doesn't matter if ultimately, yes, the case is against people who are Democrats. That's more of a incidental
It is.
than anything else. It's not because they are Democrats. They just happen to be Democrats.
Right. I mean, if they were Republicans and did the same thing, we would be having the same conversation, except for replacing the D with an R.
Right. So, I mean, then this is to protect whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. Any party could do this type of stuff.
Right.
And wreck not only candidates but individuals.
And go after your livelihood, right?
Right.
So the whole premise behind politics is supposed to be, let's argue the issues, let's have it out and have this discussion. And we hear people all the time saying that we're so divided right now, we need to come together. Okay, you don't go after someone's livelihood.
Oh, come on. Most of the time, that's just lip service. Most of these people that say that will turn around and attack somebody the next half a second.
Okay, in my opinion, their idea of unity is you need to get on board with me and be unified with me.
Here's the 700-page textbook we need you to
Right, to memorize and be able to regurgitate, and
Right.
you have to be unified with me. It's not we're going to compromise and come together. Would take your ideas and my ideas. No, you have to follow my ideas, and that's the kind of unity that they're talking about. It's not true unity. It's come to my side or be shunned.
Right. Or what was the one that we heard? I've been here longer, therefore.
Right.
I
Oh,
know
I've been doing this longer.
Get off my lawn.
Yes.
Pretty much. Get off my lawn, you crazy kids.
Exactly.
get over here so I can tell you to get off my lawn.
Right, because I can't yell that loud and I can't hear you when you're arguing with me.
Right.
But no, really that's what they're talking about. They're talking about, unity? Okay, believe in what I say and screw what you believe, but come to my side, and if you don't, then you're going to be shunned, and I'm going to come after your, business and your livelihood and your personal reputations, and it's going to be, and in this day and age of social media, that shit matters. It's all over the place.
Right. And I mean, there's one thing to say something's politics, to play politics. It's another thing to actually destroy your enemy, not only their public persona, but their livelihood. For something that's more of a perceived slight than anything else.
Right.
And then let's also remember that playing politics 100 years ago was completely different than what it is today.
This is
Of
true.
course.
I mean, back then, it was actually politics. It was kind of like a labor contract. People got in a room, they kind of bumped heads for a while, and then all of a sudden they came up with something.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm all for that. I
Exactly.
In fact, anybody who knows me knows I love that. I love a
Oh,
good
she
argument and debate, especially
loves.
a political debate all day long. But you should still be able to go and have a beer later, or still be at least cordial. Our situation over the last year, absolutely not. It was, I'm still getting, harassed.
We're not even
and
in
things like
business
that.
anymore.
Thanks,
And we're still
Obama.
Thanks, Trump. No, we're not even in business anymore, and we're
Too many
still.
drops.
we're still getting like comments. Like there was a comment made, and I had to tell him, you have no clue what you're doing, and this is exactly, you just proved my point. You're repeating the same lies that I sent to deceased and desist. Deceased and desist. That's what I meant to say. Shit. All right. Blah, blah, blah.
Cease and desist.
That's it. A cease and desist letter. And it was like 6 months later, someone posted that same argument on Facebook.
I remember this.
Yeah,
argument.
And I'm like...
Yeah, that particular person was the interim District 1 chair who also said good riddance to bad rubbish or trash.
Right,
or take out the
The words were good riddance to bad rubbish, and it was in a reply to one of my posts about you guys.
Yeah, so he was referring to my husband and myself.
And our business.
Right, and... Again, let's go back over the long list of candidates that we've recruited, election judges, PCs, the number of events that we've hosted at our time and expense. All of that was trashed in that one comment in an effort to tarnish our character. So isn't that the whole playbook, right? Somebody does something that maybe they shouldn't have. So then we're going to crucify the person that the action was against. So we've gone through this character assassination for the last year.
Well, what's that quote? Repeat the lie long enough till it's true.
Exactly.
Yeah, or as on Seinfeld, George Costanza, it's not a lie if you believe it.
That's true.
But I mean, and I feel eloquently shut that conversation down, but I did temper myself. I was going to go tell him to eat a bag of dicks, but I kind of just said, maybe not.
See, now we're talking don't panic language.
Right. So I was going to put that in there, and we might have made t-shirts. We talked about making t-shirts. And then we realized
Kerri just passed out. I think you...
Right, I just broke Kerri. She's dying over there. But then we realized, because one of the comments to me was, if I was one of your investors, I would have demanded your resignation. And so Kerri and I are laughing in the car, and I'm like, hey, Kerri, we didn't...
Well, first, fiscally responsible business. We didn't take out a big loan.
Right.
We scrimped and saved and pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps.
Better yet, you two could have resigned. Just swap titles.
Well, no. What we ended up doing was I ended up firing her, and I'm like, wait, if I fire you, who's going to fire me? So we actually went, all right, on 3. 1, 2, 3, you're fired! And we actually screamed it in the car, and then we were going to have, this guy's name and go eat a bag of dicks, print it on t-shirts. And...
Yeah, by the way, since we're actually going through this process, I don't know anybody else who owns a business. It's expensive to close a business, too.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Filing with the IRS and the accountants and all of this. So there's extra expense that adds insult to injury that we are now having to pay as well.
Exactly. So we fired each other and laughed it off. I mean, we've tried to keep a sense of humor through all this because, it was our livelihood. And, I'm still doing some design on the side and trying to scrape up mostly out-of-town clients, because any local clients are like, oh, I know you, I've heard about you. So most of my people are so I'm still trying to scrape together some design clients here and there so I can make some so I can make some cash so we can close our business.
Yeah, in fact, to highlight the example, our last 2 clients, California
and Wisconsin.
Because we lost everybody in Chicago, we lost everybody local.
Yeah.
So when we say it was a blackball smear campaign, it's no joke.
No.
And I have been a member of local chambers, Chicago chambers, since 2009 with a good reputation. And wow, did they successfully decimate all of that.
Right. So, yeah. So we fired each other, and we're trying to move on and put things back together and do other things and whatnot. But it's still, like all the local people are, oh, I know about you. And I'm like, wait, okay, so which do you know about?
What do you know?
Right. Wait, what do you know? Because, I don't know if it's like, oh, I heard about you drinking or whatever.
And if I could say this, I'm still a bleeding heart liberal. We've got a general election coming up. And what's happening to us, what's happening in this county is happening everywhere. So every time I hear that riding the blue wave, I scoff a little bit because, again, there is no race in this November election that Democratic hubris cannot lose. And just the stories that I'm seeing all across Illinois and in other states where, like I said, our story is not unique.
Yeah.
So hopefully people will hear our story and it will act as like some sort of clarion call. Let's get it together.
Right, because, I mean, seriously, and here's the problem, without the transparency and the accountability, right, we have lost complete faith in both parties. And, to me, I don't know, given the state of our country and the leadership of our country, transparency and accountability and being a responsible party
Thrown out the window.
Right. It's got thrown out the window and they're just playing the other's game. And I'm like, okay, if we took that back and we were responsible and transparent and we honestly listened to people and got off the talking points, that divide us, there's a lot more people that would want that and vote that, in my opinion. So
I've always been of the opinion that the 90% of the wedge issues aren't that much of an issue to 90% of the country.
no, I mean, it's guns and babies, let's be honest.
No, and this was this is one of the highlights of the work that we did on the congressional campaign that I absolutely loved. I was a little skeptical, but one of our first assignments was go find Tea Party members, rabid Trump supporters, and I want you to sit down and have these conversations with them.
And we did.
We did, and so we had our 10 big hot button issues from a progressive standpoint.
And now, okay, so we met with a bunch of women. They have a group that meets, where was it? Out in Marengo. And Kerri and I went there, we went to a bowling alley, and we had a bunch of drinks, and we sat around and talked about all these hot button issues with, what was it?
Big wedge issues. Among them was reproductive rights and abortion, immigration,
Fight
voting
for
rights,
15,
everything. And
healthcare.
of these 10 issues, including Medicare for all, of these 10 issues, there was only one where we could not get 100% consensus, and that was on immigration. So everything else.
Right, like, they never even, like, and it goes to, and I know we're so getting off topic, but it's okay. I know, we're going down a rabbit hole.
Wait, topic?
What?
We always get off topic.
Okay, so anyway, but these women, and we got along with them fabulously. I mean, we had so much fun. We were giggling, and we were talking politics, and we were drinking and everything. So I remember having this conversation with one of the women about raising the minimum wage. She did not realize that the people who work at Walmart, and they're our biggest employer, get financial assistance because Walmart doesn't pay them enough. And I'm like, okay, so you realize that the biggest employer...
I'm going to put a pillow down on the
I know,
table
I keep doing that again. The biggest employer is being subsidized by our tax dollars because, the Waltons, they're really stinking rich. They're some of the richest people.
Corporations are the biggest welfare recipients in the United States.
Exactly. Yes. And so she didn't realize, I'm like, okay, so either you can raise it to $15, the minimum wage, so that it's a livable wage, or you can continue to subsidize them, subsidize these workers, but you can't take away their benefits and then not raise it because then you're not giving them anything. And when she started to think about it like that, she goes, oh my God, you're right. I never realized that we're actually subsidizing Walmart and these larger corporations. And I'm like, exactly. All these people are working. Like, most of the people on welfare are working poor because they don't get... And when we got into this conversation, it dawned on her that, oh my God, we need to give them a livable wage. Then they can get off of welfare and we can stop subsidizing these giant corporations. And so things like that, and healthcare for all, and we were going through these topics, and you could see that they just didn't have the information. So it wasn't like they had the information and disagreed with us. They didn't have the information. These are things that are just not being talked about.
So it was not just giving them the information, but sitting down, talking to them face to face. So what I loved about the experience was, obviously getting to talk politics and hearing why they felt the way they did. But This was a group of amazing, dynamic, strong women who love their families, who love this area, and really want the best, not just for themselves, but for their neighbors. So I'm still friends with most of them now because of that particular experience. So going back to this blue tide and how we get voters to engage, because even in our primary, we had
23%.
well, 3% of the younger voters voted, and 20 to 24% statewide. That is horrendous.
It's abysmal.
There are people who go to vote literally in a war zone and vote at 60 to 80%.
Yeah.
60 to 80%, and we can't even achieve a 30%.
No,
That's
we can't.
ridiculous.
We don't even achieve a quarter. Who are we kidding?
So part of the problem is
I think a large part of the problem is you have people like me, who I looked at the last election and I went, neither of these people. But then you have all these people that have it's been drilled into your head by the two major parties at this point that voting a third party is throwing away your vote.
actually the majority agrees with you. If you look at the statistics, so we have this back and forth. Now we're way off
Actually,
topic.
the majority is just people that don't vote.
They
period.
don't vote, or they consider themselves unpartied, independent. So you had the back and forth with the Hillary and Bernie people, each side blaming the other one. But the data actually doesn't support that infighting. What it actually says is the majority of people did not vote. So if you take that huge block of people who didn't vote, that whole argument's out the window. So what that should tell leadership, in my opinion, is we're not serving what people want.
Because they're not coming out to support, and there's nothing to believe in.
But when there's only two parties, they don't give a shit.
Right.
Right.
They're
And
like, well, that's evil and that's evil too. So what's the problem?
And to bring it back around, when you've got candidates that are getting shunned out of the race before the primary's even over, because of who they chose to represent them in their social media or anything else like that, it's petty and it doesn't serve anybody any good.
No, not at all.
Well, let's be fair. Okay, this is where we separate politics from, the darker side of. You can use your influence to help a candidate. So if you have let's just take, for example, a celebrity. So one of our congressional candidates is actually related to this really cool celebrity who did some campaigning for him. Perfectly fine, totally legitimate. The problem came in where you had these political groups who promised that they were going to stay impartial and yet issued endorsements. Or you had...
Or they didn't endorse at all.
Well, I would rather them not endorse at all. What I saw was you had the 2016 Democratic nominee during that cycle with very little help at all.
Yeah.
And this was the nominee. And then during this race, during the primary, you had chairmen and people from the party throughout the district hosting private fundraisers for a candidate.
One specific candidate.
Right. So things like that kind of raise an eyebrow.
It looks a lot like National Party, what they were doing.
It's exactly. It was a top-down kind of... instead of being us telling them, this is who we want, it was a top-down, no, this is who you're going to get kind of conversation.
Right. And I think, especially when it comes to leadership, you've got to be mindful of the optics there. And some of these people are well aware of what they were doing and how they were doing it.
And I don't think they care.
No.
Not usually.
Nope.
All right. Well, we're getting on to almost past 45 minutes now of this interview.
Ooh, chatty.
Wow.
Chatty.
That's fine. Cut another 15 minutes and then it gives us at least 30 to 45 minutes of chat time, right?
Sounds good. So I mean, you got anything you guys want to wrap up? Your big booming parting words that you want people to stick in their head.
Yes, absolutely.
Make them booming, please. I wanna
Make
hear
it
them
booming.
No, my headphones will explode, please.
I just want to invite people. Our website is still up. It's heroic, HEROIC.rocks. That's .ROCKS. And right on the homepage, we've got our closing announcement. There we've attached our complaint, all of our documentation, things like that. So one other point I want to make is justice is not cheap. In fact, you only get the justice that you can afford. That's how our legal system works. So we've already spent thousands upon thousands trying to stop the hate behavior. We could use a little help in fighting the behavior because, like I said, I
just want to say really quick. Your little misspeak there. You almost said stop the hate behavior. And I think that should be your slogan.
Stop the hate behavior.
Right.
We'll consider it. See if it's trademarked. But
we'll toss it around.
Or I'll backhand you.
Yeah. So we actually have a fundraising campaign, and because we never pay retail and we always negotiate deep discounts. This isn't going to cost us very much, so what we're looking at is just a few donors. Obviously, $27 is desired, but we'll take any help you can give, and you can donate anonymously. So we've set that up on gogetfunding.com, and if you just do a search for Fight the Chicago Machine, it'll come right up.
There'll be links to both of those. We'll drop both those links up there. For anybody out there. Make up your own minds. Like we've said before, we're just two guys that bought some microphones.
That's right.
You go out there, you read those documents, you make up your own mind, and if, and I hope it is but that's just me being an influential guy with a microphone. Influenza guy with a microphone.
I'm a flu.
If after you read everything and you're on board and you think that this is a great idea, go out there, get that donation done.
Make up your own damn minds.
So make up your own mind and read it.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys for coming on out.
And then feel free to invite us back anytime.
Yeah, I think we can definitely work in.
Hold on, let me check the count. Nope, sorry. Looks like 2.5 years.
Well, see, we gotta.
But then by that time, we'll probably end up firing each other. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, you have the soundboard, so I can't fire you. But we plan to have other interviews like this for the rest of you out there. We hope to have local politicians that are running for office as well step up and answer some questions with us here on our show.
Or if you live in McHenry County and you have an issue you want to bring up, email us. You want to come in and talk about it? Email us.
Yeah.
We'll let you talk. We got extra microphones.
As obvious. Yeah. If you want to get on the show, you got something that's going on. You want to talk. You want to get your voice, your story out there, just like Kay and Kerri did. By all means, reach on out to us.
As long as it's not about chemtrails or gay frogs.
Chemtrails and gay frogs. 100% all day. I'm dedicating a whole episode to it now.
Now you done screwed yourself.
But you're not going to be able to do that without a soundboard.
I can still do this without
that's
just
right.
me.
Yeah.
Oh, you just fucked yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, well.
All right. Well, thanks again, Kay and Kerri.
Thank you guys so much. It was fun.